Well, hey friends, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast for women who want to find freedom in both their life and in their business. I own a multi-7-figure-a-year coaching business. I'm also a certified life coach. So I have the honor of helping thousands of women every single month make money in the online space and help them to get unstuck from whatever is holding them back, all without sacrificing their faith or their family. In this show, you're going to get the very best life and business advice, always with a healthy dose of Jesus. So buckle in, my friend. I'm so excited that you are here. Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to 2023. This is my first podcast recording of the year. I'm excited to be here. I've taken a break from the podcast in case you don't know. We replayed some old podcast episodes. Nell, who is my director of operations, came in and did some intro on some old topics that were still what we thought was really good and applicable for today. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to them, you can go back and do that. And then Nell did a podcast episode for me. Thank you, Nell Stortz, on how to reach your financial goals. And the truth of the matter is this: I needed a break, friends. I needed a break. I needed a break. I needed a break from work. I needed a break from thinking. I needed a break from talking. I needed a break from giving. I know that sounds terrible, but I think sometimes we get to this spot in business where we've given a whole lot of ourselves, and we've got to take like some time to rest and replenish and restore so that we can come back, get guns blazing. And I'm still not back, by the way, guns blazing. Jason and I were talking. I'm like, well, this is what happened. Middle of December or so, I'm like, why am I so tired? And I never did get sick, but I was so tired, tired to my bones tired. Have you ever felt that way? Just tired to the inner beings of my very soul tired. And I told my husband, I'm like, well, we launched the mastermind in December. We launched the Better Way program in December. And I traveled 5 out of 8 weeks in December to our new home, Bougie in the Desert in Arizona, which I never travel that much, but turns out that, completely not rehabbing, but remodeling and then redecorating a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house requires somebody to be there. There was a lot of shopping. There was a lot of things. It's still not done yet. Jason and I are actually leaving tomorrow, and we'll be out there for a week doing all the finishing touches. But I'm saying all that to say, I had such a busy December that I became so exhausted. I was terrified I was going to get sick. And not terrified, that's not a good word, but I'm like, nobody wants to get sick, but you especially don't want to get sick around the holidays, right? So I took some time off, and my team came in and they kicked butt for me. I was off of Voxer, which is the main way that all of my highest level clients, we communicate on Voxer, Monday through Thursday. I spent at least 20 to 30 hours a week on Voxer every single week, coaching, talking back and forth, strategizing with women, et cetera. And I was off of that for 12 days. It was amazing. And so I'm coming back today with some thoughts, just maybe some recappy type of things, but some thoughts for you, and something that ended up happening while I was trying to rest that I didn't anticipate happening, that I'm still trying to kind of discern, Lord, where's that coming from? Because it wasn't the best part of me. Just going to be honest. I'll share it with you here in a second. But I wanted to share just some random thoughts. I was saying to Nell, I'm going to do the podcast today, but I don't know what to title it. I don't know what angle to come from. She goes, you don't need an angle. You don't need a title. You can just do random thoughts. And I'm like, you know what? That feels really good. So let me give you some just random thoughts. Okay. Just thinking about the last couple of weeks. Number one, rest is so good, you guys. Rest is so stinking good for your soul. And especially as an entrepreneur, let me tell you something. You can either learn how to rest, or I do think that there are times when God will allow things happen that require us to rest. I will also tell you that I believe rest is warfare in a lot of ways, because I think sometimes for us type A personalities who are wired for pushing, who are wired for birthing ideas and things and all, entrepreneurs in general, it's easy for us to hustle. It's hard for us to turn it off. I think sometimes rest requires more discipline than hustling any day of the week. And so my first random thought, deep thoughts by Jen, is that rest is just so, so good. My second thought is that disconnection is so, so good, because not only did I spend 2 weeks resting, and by resting, I mean literally taking naps. watching movies, doing puzzles, watching the entire Narnia series, the complete Divergent series again, the whole Hunger Games series again. Like Jason and I went through a Netflix series called Treason. Like we sat a lot, baked cookies, watched TV, played games. I'll tell you this game that we got started on. I think it's called Rummikub, maybe Rummikub. Who knows how to actually say it? It's on Amazon. It's an old game, and it's like a card game, but with tiles with numbers on them. So fun. I bet we played 20 games of that over Christmas vacation. So rest is good. Second thing, disconnecting is so good. Because what happens is that sometimes when you are in business, you begin spending so much time with your clients and connecting so much with your audience that instinctively, every time you're saying yes to those things, you're saying no to something else. So every time I'm in my DMs, I could be connecting instead with my children or my husband, but I'm connecting with my clients, right? Every time I'm, posting something on social media, I am connecting with strangers when I have people in my household that might need my attention more. And so I want you to know that disconnection, it's really good. Yes, we still send out emails. That was my team, or that was all done in advance. Yes, I did a couple of social media posts, but for the most part, I tried really hard to disconnect. Now, I still did stories because to me, in my head, I'm like, this is fun. This doesn't feel like work. And I like seeing what everybody else is doing over the holidays. I want to see what my friends and family are doing. So since there was a lot of resting time, I had time to be on social media and just just browsing, just perusing. But that brings me to my third random thought of the year. The first one being that rest is so good. The second is that disconnection, blah, 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 blah. Words are hard when you've been off for a little bit. That disconnection is so good. But the third thought that I have decided is that I think I really want to stay off social media next year on the week between Christmas and New Year's. And I started thinking about this yesterday morning because I was talking in my mastermind this morning. I had a prayer call with all the ladies in my mastermind. And so I was telling them and kind of going into even further detail than what I am here. But I started realizing yesterday something. I was just browsing on social media. And we finished 2022 with our highest year in revenue yet. We finished this quarter with our highest revenue generating quarter we've ever had as a company. Okay. So we launched the Better Way program in December. We launched my mastermind in December. It was the highest revenue generating year and quarter we've ever had. But this week, while I was watching a lot of social media, I started to feel some weird feelings that I don't know that I have felt a whole lot before, like for days on end. I started feeling like I was kind of feeling bad about myself and starting to do some weird things like comparing myself to the people I was seeing on social media. Not weird things. I mean, I think if we're super transparent and super honest, all of us can admit to at times looking through somebody's Facebook feed or Instagram feed and being like, dang, they're living the dream. And then you start doing the whole comparison thing, right? But it was interesting because I started feeling bad about myself this week and started like thinking, and I even think I said it out loud to Jason at one point, like, why are we traveling this week? Everybody else is traveling. And I can tell you, and by the way, not everybody is traveling. I can tell you why we weren't traveling. Southwest was a mess. Jason and I had planned on going to our house in Phoenix for a couple of days. We canceled it because we were afraid we wouldn't be able to get back home to our children. 2 of our 4 kids did not want to travel. One of them's got a regular job now, and he can't just be up and gone. Easton wanted to be home. And by the way, home's supposed to be a safe place. And so I didn't want us leaving, to go somewhere. So there was lots of reasons we weren't traveling. But I was looking at everybody else traveling and I was like, oh, I wanted to travel. So I'm feeling bad about myself, just coming off, like I said, best year, best quarter ever. And then I started like comparing, which, as you know, that comparison is a thief of joy and it will steal your joy in a hot, stinking second. Because I'm comparing myself to what I'm seeing in other people's feeds. And then I started feeling pressure. I was thinking, well, I should be doing a reel like everybody else is for, New Year's Eve with all the celebrations. I should be in a sparkly dress. Instead, Jason and I ate sushi in a local sushi place, which was delicious, by the way. Came home and started this series called Treason and let our kids have people over. The truth is we never go out on New Year's Eve. But this year I was like, we have no champagne. There's no sparkly dress. There's no balloon arch. There's none of the things. And by the way, I'm throwing no shade to anybody that did that. Like, go you. It looked so fun. Also, what's fun? Sitting at home with no bra on New Year's Eve. So there's that. Okay. But I'm watching all of these highlight reels and people doing their end of the year recaps. And they've got, all the different videos with the perfect music selection, and it's got the perfect transitions in it. And it's lovely. And I'm watching influencers do all the things. And you guys, I'm feeling pressure all of a sudden. And I'm like, I should be creating content. I should be coming up with a video. And then I would remind myself, I literally have nothing still. I got nothing. I'm still resting. The Lord's still calling me to rest. And it was super interesting because the internet felt like a very noisy place. Social media felt like a very noisy place the week from Christmas to New Year's for me. And this could just be in the season of life that I'm in. I've got a big announcement coming for you guys about our family, about one of our kiddos. Turns out, well, I'll wait and make that. I'll make an announcement soon. Everything's good, by the way. It felt so noisy, and I needed to keep resting. And what's interesting is, even though I knew it wasn't good for my mental state, even though I knew it wasn't good for me to be on social media, it was one of those things where I was like, this is making me feel bad. And again, my issue, not anybody else's. This has nothing to do with the influencers. This has nothing to do with the people who are doing the reels, who are taking the vacations. This has everything to do with Jen. Okay. So just so you know that. It reminds me of that song from, is it Taylor Swift, that I'm the problem, it's me. But, it was like I kept watching it, and even though I knew it wasn't good for me mentally, I couldn't stop it. Kind of like when you're being ridiculous and you're mad at your spouse about a bad dream that you had about your spouse the night before, and they didn't even do it, and you know that it's actually just a dream, but you're still mad at them. Logically, I'm like, Jen, turn off Instagram then. But I couldn't. It was kind of good to sit there and sulk and pout for a second. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And so I just came to this conclusion. Next year, I just want to stay off social media on the week between Christmas and New Year's, unless the Lord has me doing something else. Because I didn't like watching social media and feeling like I was totally missing out. I didn't like feeling like I was behind. I tell all the women I coach, when you say I'm behind, that signifies that you're in a race. And this is no race. It was interesting because this week I was thinking too, man, I am 51. And I'm just hitting my peak and just hitting my prime in terms of what our business is doing, and, personal wealth and goals and all those things. And I'm watching all these 30 somethings, and I'm thinking, man, I wish that I knew then what I knew now, which is almost like just not being super content with where God has me today, and understanding that we had to go through all of our 30s being flat ass broke, so that I could, do something different. So Jason and I could decide to do something different. We spent our 40s building. And now in our 50s is when we are, really seeing the fruits of our labor. But gosh, it's so interesting that when you get on social media, and by the way, most people are just putting their highlight reel on there, right? It's so interesting that even with my best year ever, my best quarter ever, it stirred up a lot in me that made me think I'm not doing enough. You're not enough. You're not doing enough. You need to push more. You need to get back on it. Everybody's going to pass you. You're behind. All nonsense, all bullcrap. So I just thought I would come on and just share those thoughts with you, because I'm wondering if any of you are feeling the same way. And I'm wondering if any of you ended 2022 wishing that you had done something differently, had pushed a little harder, had put on, the high heels and gotten the champagne or whatever, I don't know, whatever it is. But if that's you, I just want you to know that I get it. And that's not usually something that I participate in emotionally. And so I've had to give myself some pep talks. I had to turn off social media, which is such a help. And I'm just putting it out there that next year, I think I'm just going to stay off social media between Christmas and New Year's. If the Lord's still asking me to rest during the holidays next year, which he has every year for many years, then I'm just going to stay off social media so that I don't start that comparison game. Again, I want to tell you, it has nothing to do with the people who I was watching on social media and everything to do with me. And if I had been making content and making a reel and doing the videos and all of the things, first of all, I do believe I would have been in disobedience to the Lord because I was supposed to be resting. But second, I've said for a long, long time that I really want to actually be successful instead of just try to convince people that I am successful. I don't want to be using social media as like a way, and I'm not saying this is what anybody else is doing, but I don't want it to just look like we're having the greatest time ever, and we're not having the greatest time ever. I don't want it to just look like I'm a good mom and a good wife. I actually want to be a good mom and a good wife. I don't want it to just look like, everything is so happy and hunky-dory. Like, I want to actually be happy and not just look happy. Does that make sense? And I think that it's such a fine line that we walk between what we actually are putting out in the world that's really forward facing. And again, this is nothing against anybody that did any of those highlight reels. Please hear my heart. If you're hearing anything other than what I'm trying to say, you're hearing it wrong. This is a me issue. And so had I created any content, it would have been, I think, just for the sake of wanting to make sure that you all knew that we've had a great year. And it would be for the sake of making sure that all of my followers saw how much fun 2022 was for us. Listen, Jason and I were talking. We were in the hospital the other day. He had another injection in his back. And we're walking down the hallway towards the pain center where he was getting, yet another procedure done. And I said, how can 2022 be simultaneously one of the best years of our life and also one of the hardest? And I think that can be so true for so many of us. Right? And so if I'd made a highlight reel, all you would have seen was the good. And you wouldn't have seen all the bad that we had also, which is, by the way, called life, which is, by the way, called normal. It's normal to have some really hard things happening in addition to some really great things. It's normal to have both. And so, next year, I'm going to stay off, I think, because I don't want to feel like I'm missing it or like I'm behind. I don't want to feel like bad that I'm putting rest over work. And I really want to fully disconnect. And even though, I didn't do any other work, I didn't take any meetings. I turned down an interview. I turned down opportunities to have my podcast, this very podcast, sponsored by a really big sponsor. And even though I said social media was fun, it is fun and I was on it, but it still felt really loud and really noisy and like a whole lot of pressure. And I don't want to do that anymore. I was recently listening to a talk from Patrice Washington. She was a guest on Stu McLaren, had a fundraiser. Stu was my business coach for many, many years. I love and respect him and Amy so much. And Patrice Washington, who I love, who's been on this podcast before, she was talking about social media. And I wrote down in the notes on my phone a quote from her. And she said, "I don't want to be a slave to the algorithm." And I thought, oh my gosh, that is so good. Sorry about the dogs barking there. But I thought that was so brilliant by Patrice, because even though the algorithm, they want the reels, they want the, all the things, like, I don't want to be a slave to that either. I don't. And I don't want to just be doing things that I think I need to do because I see other people on social media do it who are in a different season of life, who are in a different place, who are in a different industry, who are a different niche, who are in a different time period. I just don't. And so I do think that this year will be spent with me really figuring out like what I'm willing to do and what I'm not. And the bottom line is, I think it's so important that we all protect our peace. The Bible says we're to pursue peace, which to me signifies that peace will just not drop in our lap. And for me, pursuing peace in this next year, I think will look like figuring out what I'm comfortable with on social media and what I'm not. It will include what type of content do I want to make for social media and what don't I? How much time do I actually want to spend on social media versus how much time do I think I need to? When can I pull back and take a rest? And when am I supposed to versus when do I feel just like, bad and like I'm having to do something to keep up, because that's just a lie that we tell ourselves. So anyhow, I hope this speaks to somebody today. Somebody who maybe like me, you did not end up the year pushing. You did a lot of resting like me, but maybe you felt bad about it. Maybe you were watching social media and feeling like you two were behind or just not keeping up or didn't do enough. I want you to know you are enough. My friend Adrian was reminding me this morning, you are enough. You have done enough. God loves you just right exactly where you're at. So I don't know if any of these thoughts were helpful for anybody today, but my team really encouraged me to do a podcast on them. Do me a solid. If this was something that spoke to you, just if you want to screenshot this, share it on your Instagram stories, tag me, or share it with somebody else who, like you, really took some time to rest this holiday season. So many blessings to you, my friends. I'm excited to see what God has in store for all of us in 2023. Friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you come back for every episode and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Every time I see you guys post about it on Instagram or Facebook or something, it just makes me do a little happy. So thank you. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast if you never want to miss an episode. So you can go to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or any of the other podcasting places and subscribe each week so that every week you get the new episode when it releases. So just know that I love bringing you relevant content. I love bringing you great guests. And one of the ways you can help us here at Team Allwood is by leaving the podcast a review. So if you have just a second to do that, would you go over and leave a review for the Jennifer Allwood Show? Thank you again. You're amazing. I'm honored to be here. Until next week. Bye-bye.